Earlier, we talked about value, creation of value, and now our number one, first up guiding principle is going to be focus on value. Chris, it's not number one.
No.
But it is first.
It is first in our lineup. How about that?
That's good.
It just happens to. Now, I would say that it is, if you needed to make an argument about which one of the ones should be in your top few, I would agree that focus on value is definitely going to be one of the top ones. If
Absolutely.
not, maybe the top one. I'm not sure, but we're going there. Okay, so focus on value. We've talked about how important value is. Hey, do a little review. Scott, do you remember what the definition of value was? And I know I'm just throwing him under the bus here.
Co-creation
of value, right?
Value.
Yeah. Okay. So, but remember, what was the one thing we said about value?
It's subjective.
It's subjective, right? And so the perceived benefits and usefulness, importance of something. Okay. Well, if that's the definition, how do we focus on that? What are we going to look at? So glad that you joined us today. We're going to talk about that right now. And the first important thing that you want to write down or kind of remember, ding, 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 well-lit room, is that with focus on value, the whole purpose here is really that everything that the organization does, I don't care, from A to Z, soup to nuts, alpha to omega, hey, guess what? Everything should either directly or indirectly come back to value. And that is going to be value itself. It could be value that helps your customers achieve their value. It could be focusing on the value that comes from any other stakeholders. I mean, if you think about it, Scott, it could be something where by doing something with your organization, you help somebody that later on down the road can actually come back and help you. Now, you might not have even thought about that at first, but as long as you keep continuing to focus on value, those type of things start happening.
That's right.
In your organization. Yeah. So that's probably the first thing. The second thing, which is actually what's the first thing you think about when you focus on value, is, notice this, identify who the consumer or your, I would say, customer is. When focusing on value, the first step is like, all right, who is being served? Who are we trying to reach? Here's the reason why. Let's say that I come to you and I say, Scott, let me ask you something. Do you think this is valuable? I'm going to, create this course. I'm going to, put all these really cool stories in it and everything. And do you think that's valuable? And maybe it's a course on, gardening. And you're like, nah, it's not really my thing, right?
I'm not into gardening.
You're not into gardening, right? And I'm like, well, then that must not be valuable. Wait a minute. Scott's not my customer. Let's say I work for a nursery, right? And we're trying to provide training for the people who come in and buy the stuff that they have, the planters and all that stuff and how to keep their plants alive. Wait a minute, they are my consumer, not Scott. And if I base everything what I'm doing on the wrong consumer, I'm not providing value anymore, am I?
Not providing value.
Yeah, so what do we need to do? We need to, again, identify the customer, I would say. The consumer in general, but ultimately, who gives us the requirements, who does our stuff, the consumer, that sub-role is going to be the customer. So we need to do that. And then we need to think, okay, well, every consumer is kind of different. What is their, remember we talked about perception, right? What is their perspective? What is their perception of what is truly valuable? For some people, if you're talking about in operations, it's going to be things like minimizing the number of incidents, maintaining uptime, making sure that, we've got, the number of transactions occurring at any one point in time or this. Well, that's great, but what if you start talking to the sales department? Well, the sales department's going to be more like, hey, the number of calls that are completed, everybody's going to have different criteria for what they think is valuable. They might even work for the same company, but they're going to have different perceptions. And so you need to talk to them and then think, okay, well, what do they think is valuable? I know you are my customer, but what do you think is valuable? Not necessarily what I think is valuable, because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to probably disagree slightly. But I'm not the one that's receiving what I'm providing. And so I want to make sure that I give that to them. And then ultimately say, all right, well, if you think that's valuable, and we currently provide you X, Y, and Z, how do we then take it to the next level? Because one of the things that happens in IT, especially because of technology changing so rapidly, is something I call the Janet Jackson effect. Do you know what the Janet Jackson effect is?
No.
Yeah, it's what have you done for me lately?
Oh, like the song.
Very popular song that Janet did.
Yeah.
And I see you all right there going, curse you, Chris. Now that song's running through my head, right?
Now. It is
in your head. What do they call them? Earwigs or whatever things? Yeah. Anyway, all that to say is that is how we look at things that are right now, currently, I think this is valuable. Well, we'll use a great example, just websites, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine making a website today with Netscape 4.0.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Why? Because that's no longer the cutting edge, bleeding edge awesomeness that it was, though, when Netscape Navigator was around. And I mean, it was amazing. In fact, it was given Explorer a pretty good run for its money for a long time. Yeah. So what our point is that, hey, look, at all times, especially in the world of technology, you are going to want to continually think about how do I improve? How do we get better at what we do? And not just how I think it should get better, but how our consumer wants to get better.
Yeah. You know, when I worked for that big company and as in VP, when I first started for this big company, Chris, it was amazing. I started for the company and they sent me to training, but I'm in training for four to 5 weeks, okay, to learn a job that I already knew. But the thing is that, and remember, I'm new to the organization, not just new to the role.
Yeah.
But do you know why they had to send me to training for 4 to 5 weeks? Because they didn't have a laptop. See, it wasn't in their strategy to have a laptop available for a new employee. So every new employee that started, you either had to find a desktop, and these are, knowledge workers. These are people that should have a laptop ready from day one. And it was groundbreaking just to try to get, hey, I just need an inventory of laptops for people. Today, your organization probably has that laptop inventory, I would hope.
Yeah, I hope so.
But see, like when I got into that role and I'm looking at it saying, okay, how do we improve our customer experience? And being in IT, our customer was the organization and not the end user, the person who wrote the checkout for us, right?
Yeah, and listen to what Scott just said. He just outlined the 3 things that we just said. Number 1, identify who your consumer was. Yeah, it's not the people outside of the organization. It's inside. Also, what do they think is value? What's their perspective of value? And then how do we make that better? That's super important.
Yeah,
okay.
Focus on value.
Focus on value. All right, so how do we apply this? Let's take a look at this. So what ITIL? Well, number 1 is that when you apply the principle focus on value, number 1, I would say, and again, just because it's number 1 on the list, not the first thing, is that you need to know how service consumers actually use or utilize that service or product that you have. Because how the service consumers perceive the service provider, a lot of that comes back to, hey, I'm giving you this service, and are you using it or not? Do you even care about how, there's a lot of going on with knowing how the consumers are using the service then means that you're going to be able to then come to them and say, hey, I noticed, Scott, that you're using your laptop and you're using this type of thing. Would it be better for you if we did this? And Scott goes, yeah, that'd be great. Okay, that gives us a clue on now how to improve or go to the next level. Next, we see that we need to encourage a focus on value among all the staff. And I know that it's usually easy to think, well, that's the job of senior management. Isn't it senior management? I mean, they cast the vision and the mission, and shouldn't they say what's valuable or not? Au contraire, mon frère. No, it should come also from the people who are, I would say, sitting in the seats, answering those help desk, service desk calls where the customer and the users are going, hey, I don't like this, or oh, I love this, right? Well, you need to get that kind of feedback. And so, encourage a focus on value among all of the staff. Now, of course, that's going to be during what I just described, which is normal operational activity, right? Do your job well and serve the customer well. but this also is something that can be done during the initiatives, right? If you're doing like an improvement initiative, obviously we want to improve in a way that is also focusing on value. And in this world of agile type of initiatives, not just the old predictive, IT projects and, oh, we're going to upgrade our infrastructure, right? Or we're going to create the next new piece of software that, Acme, Software Incorporated is going to create, right? Instead, we realize that, hey, we might start on something, get down the road a little bit, and if you're doing it in an agile way, you go, well, feedback is not going to be good. Well, now we haven't invested hours and thousands of dollars of investment into something that in the end nobody really wants, which is important. And then finally, include a focus on value in every step of that improvement initiative, which means that even as we'll talk about in the CI model, when you talk about what is the vision, where are we now, where do we want to be, at each step, think about focus on value. Now, last couple of things that I want you just to write down. See, I am going to ask you to do something. It's not here on the screen, but write this down. I want you to write down these words. Ready? Well, actually, it's initials, but they have words attached to it. ROI.
ROI.
ROI. Oh,
you got my interest now.
Didn't you notice how his eyes just lit up because he's like, oh, I know this stuff. And plus, that's kind of his bread and butter, right? You think about this. With ROI, return on investment, that means things like revenue, profit, operation, cost valuation, things like that. That is a part of it. I know a lot of people say, well, it's not about the money. I don't think so. If you don't have money, then you don't have an organization or a business, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I know, Scott, you and I we just talk about that over lunch and said, hey, got to make sure that if you want to continue to operate, you got to continue to make some money. Money's got to come in.
Money pays for all of us. It's what our shareholders and investors expect, right? It's just the way that it is.
Yeah. So don't just negate the dollar signs because, well, value is more than money. Yes, but money is a very important aspect. It's also a very good indicator on whether you are providing value. Because if people are willing to pay money for your stuff, that means they perceive it has value. And so we want to make sure that we do that. The other aspect of this will be CX and UX, customer experience and user experience. Make sure you write those down too. And so that way, if you're in a small Willet room and they're asking you about, well, what are those type of things, which guiding principle kind of deals with that? That is what you're going to go, or where you'll go, I know this. Focus on value, customer experience, user experience, or CX, UX is what they call that, as well as revenue, ROI. Don't forget, focusing on that value is going to be key for your organization to continue as an organization.
Fair enough. So, Chris, we're going to focus on value. It's important. It's not in a numbered sequence, but it did come first, which leads us to my next favorite part, which is start where you are. So we'll see you over there.